questions first, most likely, if I don't need to address something as we're moving through this document.
All right. So as Mr. Kennedy speaks, if you have any questions, I do have it to where you were unable to unmute yourself for good of the order. So if you do have any questions, down at the bottom of your screen, if you're on a computer, there will be a chat function. You are free to type in a question, and then as he gets to a point where he can address it, we will address those questions. You can also use a raise hand feature, which should be accessible on your thumbnail window. If you can't find that very easily, you can also do the button down at the bottom of your screen where it says reactions. You can find a thumbs up or a hand clap, anything that you can have pop up at a time where we open up for possible questions. We might unmute you at that point. So again, for the good of the order, if you would type your questions into the chat function, if you have not already pre-submitted the questions.
Okay, thank you, Trevor. Also, we have the admin team with Dr. Larry Benn, Sean Cox, Margaret Carlisle, and Jenny Chambers, and I think Trevor has them unmuted. If I speak or say something out of turn or that doesn't make sense, they will. They are unmuted so they can jump in and clarify without us having to wait. The other part of that, I will say, I would like this to be relaxed and casual and all that, and tell you a joke or two about how tired I am of talking about COVID and how crazy this is making me. But since we are recording this for those that can attend tonight, and since we will stream it on our website, I will hold those comments. And if you want to catch me later on, you can hear the joke that I've told my faculty too many times about how this is starting to wear on me. Anyway, that all said, we will get started, and I want to go over some key points first, and then we will go quickly through some of the points of the Return to Learn plan, so there's a little more clarification. And then if you have questions, then we'll get to those questions, those that can't be cleared up. The first thing I want to say is this has been a really crazy 2.5 or 3 months with a back and forth on this. And if you notice on the Return to Learn plan that is on the website, I put on every page as a footer that this is a fluid and dynamic process, and the board at the special meeting last week authorized that if changes need to be made, the superintendent can make those changes at any time. So fortunately, through social media and the ability to communicate with all of you, that's not a big problem if we get in a situation and have to go to a COVID shutdown, or if we, even if we had to go to a situation of bad weather, inclement weather, and we shut down, our students could immediately be virtual, and we will not lose that day as far as an instructional day. So this has brought about some good things. It's taught us some things and taught us to be, taught us to learn and taught us to be prepared for that virtual model. So that was a Wednesday meeting, August the 5th, that the board agreed to change the start date to August 26th. That's our third adjustment, or our third date. I got some confirmation from school districts in the area early this morning that their board approved the program last night, and they are even considering virtual the first 9 weeks because of the status Cherokee County is currently in. Another superintendent colleague in the county notified us the other day, and they're going to the A to B plan. And so they'll be virtual halftime with their students. At this time, we're going to plan on moving forward with the face-to-face, and we will adjust as necessary. I say all of that up front because I want you as patrons to understand we are in a partnership on this, and this is a multi-level partnership. This is with the Cherokee County Health Department and other health officials. This is with the district patrons, you as parents. It's with our students, and it's with our teachers. We're all in this together, and we all stand to have health issues if we don't follow some of these procedures, and we all stand to lose learning opportunities if we don't follow these procedures. So I really, really want you to understand that this is a partnership. It's a two-way street, and we are working with you guys and working with the same things you want, and that's the best health and the best safety for your children. And then we work to give them the best education. So with that said, I'll get into a few points. Trevor, if you want to go to page 2 of that learning plan. The prevention portion, as you guys have seen, the prevention portion starts with masks. That's the first level, and that's what we're going to work with. But the other part of that we want to say, or that we want to point out, is some schools are, and this came up in the question, so I'm going to answer this in advance. Some schools are testing on the bus. Some schools are testing in an environment either at the front door or as the kids enter the classroom. Parents, we're going to rely on you to do those tests. We're also going to rely on you to screen your kids. We're going to remind you with a Sunday night robocall, as we always do, but the last bit of the robocall will say, screen your kids. If there's anything that came up, you need to let us know. They will not be counted absent if you suspect COVID symptoms or if you need to keep them home, because we will be giving that child the opportunity to stay caught up virtually. So that's a positive thing about this. And with us having the technology and having those things in place, you will have that opportunity. So again, we elected not to do the temperature checks because that is just one of the symptoms. And statistics show that those children, especially children 10 and under, by and large, do not ever develop a fever. So we're going to ask that parents check temperatures every day, and then they check those symptoms on Sunday night. Typically, the symptoms show in less than 5 days. So if something pops up in the middle or end of the week, we will address that accordingly. Okay, if you want to go to number 2, Trevor, instead of the parent guidelines, if you would go just over to that overview, that might be I might be able to go through that a little bit quicker because there are a handful of points that we want to cover there. So instead of the return to learn plan, if you would pull that parent overview up, that might be better. Can you share and make that document accessible? Just the update from Superintendent Ed Kennedy. That's the document name. That's the document name Dean gave it. And if you'll go to the second page on that. Our return to learn plan was based on the return to learn plan that came out of the State Department of Education. It's an 83-page document. So sometime you're bored and really want something exciting to read, or if you want to print that out and take it in for bathroom reading, I guess you can do that. But it is a very comprehensive document done in conjunction with the Oklahoma State Department of Health. Regarding safety, as I said, the first bullet there, wear a face mask. The second bullet, our teachers are going to teach and reteach COVID prevention strategies, and they are also going to use a similar curriculum. So we're all, or a similar lesson plan. So we're telling the students the same thing at all grade levels and in all classes. We will social distance the best we can. We expect the same. If you have to be on campus as a parent for any reason, we're going to ask you to do a mask and to provide the social distancing opportunity as well. If you'll scroll on down, Trevor, I told you we were going to hit these quickly. Normally, we tell the teacher or the parents, put the kids on a bus, put the kids on a bus, put the kids on a bus. We can be timely that way. This year, or at least until this passes, we're going to ask that parents bring their children to school or pick their children up if possible, or do that with a relative or someone that you've been around that you would be able to track back to for contact tracing in the event there was a COVID outbreak in your household. So If you will bring your kids to school, that will help us out. We expect breakfast to be a grab and go scenario where the students end up eating in the lunchroom. At the Early Learning Center, they are going to go directly to their classroom, and then they will be eating, excuse me, they will be eating breakfast in their classroom at that time. Lunch, we've got a coordinated strategy for lunch. Part of it will be the kids in first and second grade scheduled to come in and sit down and eat, while the older kids just come through and grab and go. And I say older meaning middle school, and go back over to the middle school building to eat. The other part of that that's going to be interesting is we are going to have the lunches prepackaged and placed at the table for those first and second graders when their turn is to rotate in, so that they have social distancing already set up for them. We're going to space those out at the table. The other thing we're doing, or that we're trying to do, you may hear our teachers, or you may hear administration talk about cohort groups. That's another way for us to say your class. Those students that your children are in a particular class, we want them to stay with that group all day. We're going to the extent that we're not even mixing together for physical education. We have enough teachers that we are going to spread out into different locations, and your students that are that start the day together are going to end the day together. So that will give us the opportunity for social distancing. And again, as I said a while ago, if there's a COVID outbreak, we'll use seating charts, and we will trace back, and we will adjust and make a decision to shut down a classroom before we shut down the whole school in the event of an outbreak. Now, someone asked the question, what constitutes close contact? And I think the latest CDC guidelines said 6 feet for 15 minutes. It's been back and forth. It's been 6 feet for 10 minutes. I think it's back to 6 feet for 15 minutes. So if they're sitting together in the class for an extended period of time at a table where 4 of them are together, the expectation is that those children would need to be isolated. But as I said, we will go back to the health department. We will not name names unless you have given us express permission and signed that HIPAA release, which the health department is recommending. But we will gift them some information so they can contact trace, and we will notify the parents, and the parents will be asked to notify the county health department. If they don't, that's understandable, but you will be still required to isolate or quarantine for that extended period of time. The other part of that, as we said, if you sign that HIPAA document, we can call and give the name to the health department immediately, and they can contact you and work with you to help make sure all of your family is tested as appropriate and or isolated. Let's see, next. We will be implementing several hygiene strategies in addition to keeping desks clean and working on those types of things. We've got soap dispensers in each classroom with the expectation that when they leave and when they come back in, they will hit the soap dispenser to keep their hands clean. They're the foaming type, so no water will be necessary. We have, as it indicates here, a COVID team, and we're fortunate for a school our size in that we've got some people with some specialty CNA training. No one at the nurse to RN level, but we have those on campus. We've got 3 or 4 that have CNA licensure, and so consequently, those health aides will be the one that can help us screen these kids. Someone asked one of the questions earlier in the open forum earlier. They ask about, does the contract we sign mean that you're going to test our kids at school? No, it does not. That contract you sign means you've just read the information and you're going to be a partner with us and support us in the things that we do to keep all these kids safe. That's really what it is. The HIPAA agreement is so we can release your information to the health department. But the COVID team is, as I say, CNAs. We've even got some volunteers through our coaches, our PE teachers, who have don't have a significant background in training, but are significant background and training for health. They have the skill set and they'll practice the proper protocol to get a child from point A to point B on the campus and get that child to a health aide as discreetly and autonomously as possible, so that we don't draw attention to the fact that this kid is being taken to the health aide to be screened. So that's what the COVID team's for. The COVID team will have access to more of the PPE gear. And for instance, if we go to the health aide and it's one of our CNAs and they're doing screening on a child, they will have the access to the PPE gown as well as gloves, which the coach or the other aides would have. They will also have face shields and masks. So, and we're doing this, as I talked about temperature checks a while ago. Some people are having one person stand at the front of the school where they're exposing that child, or excuse me, exposing that adult to every child that comes through that door. This way, our COVID team can gown up and they can be the ones responsible for being discreet and also getting the information to the health department. We will have safety signage around the school, outside, and we've ordered some bilingual signage as well to help those that don't speak English. But it's just going to be a reminder about social distancing and about masks and about the guidelines. Then we've also asked teachers to have educational materials in the classroom, posters and things like that that discuss hand washing and proper etiquette, not sharing materials or equipment. Students that are ill, I mentioned this, students that are ill or quarantined, you'll see at the bottom of that page, they will not be counted absent because they'll have the opportunity to do their homework on their Chromebook, or we can send a homework package home with them. Then the last paragraph on the safety section is our admin team will continue to work and look at COVID maps and track outbreak statistics, and we'll work with Oklahoma Health Department and the Cherokee County Health Department as well as the Cherokee Nation on any of our decision making regarding school closure or a classroom closure. So we're kind of prepared on that, and we are hoping that we don't have to get into a situation where we need a lot of consultation, but as I say, we are prepared for it and we're ready to address that if we need to. Let's move to the academic side of things. This is the one that interests many of you. Academics for the on-campus kid will be traditional as they have been. What we have done differently is our middle school, our 5th through 8th grade students, we've worked very hard and Dr. Ben's done a great job and in the scheduling part of it. And we are going to call first period encore and last period encore. And those encore periods will be 6 different sections or subjects taught by 6 different teachers. And it will have the 3 classes of 5th graders that we have, 5-1, 5-2, and 5-3, and the 6th grade, 6-1, 6-2, and 6-3 first hour. And then we will do likewise last period with our 7th and 8th graders. And the classes are 3 different specialty rotations of physical education, but then we also have art, music, and help me, Dr. Ben, I've got the schedule here in front of me. I'm drawing a blank. What is the last one, STEM or Larry's still muted there? And
He is there. I am unmuting him. He might be having issues with unmuting.
Okay. Anyway, there'll be those 6 classes that the students will go through, but they'll stay with their cohort group at that time. So that'll be the face-to-face. Our rotations, or we call them specials, through the course of the day for early childhood through fourth grade, those students will be they'll be doing specials as they always have, but they will stay with their cohort group. They'll never be blended, and we will escort those kids. We will move them down the hall in an organized fashion, and our hallway and some of our travel paths will have social distancing as we do that, and then there'll be some one-way traffic and one-way travel so they can keep that distancing. Larry, are you on now? What was that last class? I'm drawing a blank.
There are going to be 3 PE rotations. One of them will be PE for life, with lifetime sports and lifetime physical education. The other one will be PE for fitness. The third one will be PE for team sports, which will do lead-up games and sports skills. The next one is music, and that'll be music in a non-aerosol way, or there's a lot of music we can learn without singing or without blowing air through an instrument. So but it'll be music theory and learning music. And then art will be another rotation, a 3-week rotation. And the last one is health.
Okay, thank you. I guess I had lumped the health in, or I got to thinking about PE teachers, and that one went right by me. My apologies. So that'll be the face-to-face day, the encore for the middle schoolers first and last period, and then the traditional specials rotation with our younger students through the course of the day. Mr. Cox has been back and forth with several different renditions of that as we've tried to make sure we had enough teachers to be able to adequately support that. So many of you want to learn or are interested in the virtual learning part of it. And that virtual learning for grades 3 through 8, those students will have a Chromebook, as we talked about. The early childhood through 2nd grade, we're going to start with the take-home packet model. We are still investigating some other possibilities there on what we might do for virtual or for distance learning for them. Let's see, Chromebooks, hotspots. The hotspots will go to those students that don't currently have internet access at home. A reminder on both Chromebooks and hotspots. If your child has a better computer or a better device at home, it might be that would be the device they would want to use at home. But especially if you have internet access at home, we have a limited number of those hotspots. So I would encourage any of you, as you get your checks, for those of you that have children that are Cherokee citizens, that you use that technology check to possibly purchase them the appropriate equipment, and most importantly, make sure that you purchase either a hotspot or monthly internet access. That was a very benevolent gesture that the Cherokee Nation has provided, and I hope you guys take advantage of that. I hope you've already signed up for it. I think they're preparing to release the checks now. I believe the total was $400, and if we provide the Chromebooks and you've got internet access at home, that hotspot can go to someone else that maybe is in a location that couldn't get wired communication into their home or couldn't get wired internet access. As I noted in academics, that third bullet down, some schools are using online agencies or they're using canned curriculum for their online learning. Your distance learning model for your children with Grandview will be with Grandview teachers. And some of you have asked the question about what that model will look like or what it will look like through the course of the day. We're still trying to refine that. And I know some of you would like to have your child at home and have you follow along and actually watch the lesson as it's being taught. We're looking at some options on how we can do that. There are a handful of hurdles. Obviously, the bandwidth coming out of the school or the bandwidth going into your school, into your home. But the other portion, or the other thing that we have to address, is the privacy issues of those students that are on campus. If we have a screenshot that has all of the kids in the class, and one of these students has does not have a waiver for their photograph to be used on Grandview, and all of a sudden we're broadcasting across the internet. There are just things that a lot of times parents wouldn't think about or wouldn't know about, and they're things that we have to think about. Mr. Goss brought up the point, what if you have to discipline a student in class, and it's uncomfortable enough to do it or to call someone out that's not paying attention with 15 or 18 kids that are in there, but to think you've got some at home or some online watching it, that adds another level of something that we need to think about. So it will be taught by Grandview teachers. We are working that out right now. Some ask about the length of the day or how the day would work. I might let Dr. Ben or Mr. Cox jump in here, and if they've got a comment about how they envision that working and what their teachers are working on for that plan, they can certainly share that with you now.
I'll go ahead and share that sometimes it will depend on the lesson. There may be times when the teacher will want a group discussion, and so the student would need to participate live during that time, but there are other times when there will be less or assignments that could be given, and then those assignments could be completed at the student's convenience and then graded at a later time. So I think there'll be a combination, and I know there will be some supplemental programs that we'll be using, such as Exact Path that some of you have heard about, Study Island that we've had for years, but those can be assignments that can be given, and then the student can work on those at their convenience. But I'll yield to Mr. Cox if he has other comments.
While we're waiting on Sean, the thing I want to mention is you see on that bullet the term asynchronous learning. That's one of those fancy terms that came out in distance learning about 20 years ago, which means the student can work at their own pace or on their own schedule. That's the best way to summarize that. So some people have asked, does a student need to be online all day long? Well, no, that model doesn't work. Our students aren't engaged, and a teacher isn't teaching every single moment. There are some things that go on during the course of a school day that are learning, but sometimes it's social learning, and sometimes it's learning good manners and how to behave and some of the things that go with that. So it's not expected that your child logs on at 8:05 in the morning and is on until 3:30 in the afternoon. And that's also the beauty about this model. If we have a bad weather day, or if we have one of these virtual days we've set in some instances that are adjacent to a holiday, because a lot of people will leave early a day for a holiday, and the student will be traveling, or they'll be going to visit family or something of that nature. This asynchronous learning model gives them the opportunity to get their homework done at a time that's convenient for them and for the rest of their family. So that's a good positive thing. Sean, are you on now?
Yes, sir. Some of the or pre-recorded reading of books, things like that, so that the students could access that on their time. And then, of course, kind of office hours to meet with the students, go over information, things like that. But a lot of pre-recorded items of book readings, small lessons, things like that is what I see to be definitely happening in our virtual learning for our younger kids. Same would apply for our packet learner kids. There'd be office hours and some pre-recorded things that they could access online as a supplemental product.
Sean mentioned the term office hours. Let me answer a question that came into our chat forum ahead of time, and I appreciate those of you that got online and asked those questions. You're letting me address some of those right now, which we're moving through these kind of quickly, but it's working well. Sean mentioned office hours, and somebody asked the magical question: what if we shut down? What if we have to go virtual like we did last spring? The expectation is that those teachers will be available for an entire school day, and they will be available for your children to ask them questions at that time frame. that's going to be required of them based on their contract. So for simplicity's sake, you can say 8 to 3:30, those teachers will be available. Now, most of you know good and well, you've got great teachers here at Grandview. Most of them are available at hours beyond that. They'll respond to text, they'll respond to email, many of those types of things. But if you want to just plan on the fact that if we go virtual, that 8 to 3:30 time frame is when they're going to be available. Now, someone else asked the question about what about tutoring or special assistance for someone having difficulty. That's one of the models we're looking at as a way for us to meet our obligation for our after-school grant. Let me mention after school, and Margaret can jump on if she wants to comment too, but to keep a cohort group all day long, we would need about 30 teachers in after school in order for those groups to stay intact, for those students to be able to say that maybe only 5 from Mr. Goss's 8-1 class stayed in after school, but you would need a teacher for them, and they would need to be separate and not mixed with the 8-2 class or the 8-3 class, or not socializing with 7th graders, that type of thing. So that's a real sticking point for us right now. And we absolutely realize the need for after school for parents. So we are looking at that, and we may, to be honest with you, we may have to do a modified version where we limit our after school program only to those students in grades 4 and down. But the after school program will also be a time where we can get some tutoring opportunity or some one-to-one opportunity outside the school day for those students that need extra help, whether they're a virtual student or whether they're somebody face-to-face, or as Dr. Ben has started calling it, mask to mask. So, so after school, we're working on it, but the tutoring and those tutoring opportunities for those virtual learners will certainly be available. Another thing we think is a great point for us that other virtual schools either are not offering or cannot offer, we've got the free community eligibility. The P does not stand for program, but the CEP program does provide for free lunches for all of our school and free breakfast for all of our school children. We will continue with the free breakfast and free lunch for those that are doing the virtual learning or the distance learning model, those that are staying home with families. Now, once you decide on who's staying home, we're going to have to ask the magical question, what do you want? Do you want to come to campus every day and pull through the parking lot over in the gravel lot and grab and go with the meals? Or do you want to come once a week and get a week's worth of meals? And that will be up to that'll be your decision based on the virtual learners that are out there. So with that model in place, as I say, we're offering something we feel that other schools are not or will not offer. And we think with a new contract food service company, we think they are ready to step up to the plate and kind of prove to everyone what a great job they can do, even if we have to do the grab and go meal thing. Jennifer Russell asked the question, what kind of meals will we have on the grab and go? At this point, I can't say, but the expectation is those grab and go meals will be the same meals that are provided in the cafeteria. However, the caveat I will throw out for the virtual grab and go meals is if the virtual the families of the virtual kids elect to do a once a week grab and go for simplicity's sake, obviously those meals will all not be fully prepared. Some of that stuff you'll have to heat and prepare on your own as you get home. Another point we mentioned were the participation in extracurricular activities, and Jenny Chambers, one of our admin team, caught this, and it was so ingrained in my head how we were doing things that I totally overlooked it. But participation in extracurricular activities will be available to any virtual or distance learning student, but they will be available when we start them back up. Right now, we're like all the other schools in Cherokee County, and we've agreed to suspend all extracurriculars until September. And from the looks of things, September will be suspended as well because of the health ranking for Cherokee County. But on that particular bullet point, extracurriculars, those kids can participate in them once we are in a scenario where we can begin to offer them again. And when that comes around, that's going to mean that the COVID things are clearing up, and we'll just be careful on social distancing and careful on how to track who's involved in those extracurricular activities. Grandview's doing something different than other schools. I'm hearing other schools say, we're going distance learning, or if you choose distance learning, you're there for a semester. That's not our model. We want your kids, and we want them here in our school, and we want the opportunity to work with them on things other than just the curriculum. That being the case, if you try distance learning, or if your child tries distance learning and it does not work out for them, it does not work out for the family, you can roll those kids back into the face-to-face model. We would ask you to try it for at least 2 weeks. Don't just try to make the decision after a couple of days. And also, we would ask that you not be back and forth with it, that the child not come back for a week and a half and then say, oh, I want to go virtual again. I got to sleep in. Someone asked the question, what they could do to help. And what you could do to help, especially if you're teaching your child virtually, is develop that schedule and keep them on that schedule. Expect them to get up and be ready and be involved and participatory, and set schedules on when they work and when they can take their breaks. And your teachers will work with you and your students to develop those kind of schedules that will do that. The other thing we ask you to do, we've had people make comments about, well, I've got a 6-year-old and he won't wear a mask. I just know it. Have you tried? Have you started that process? Have you purchased a mask that he got to pick out that was fun or funny? Have you worn a mask to model that behavior for that child? And it's going to be a peer pressure thing. When everybody else at school's wearing a mask and it's cool and, we can all do that, then the expectation is those kids will comply. So practice that mask wearing. Get them used to that early. We've had a health group in. Actually, we've had multiple people that have talked to us and given us examples of 3- and 4-year-olds that they've gotten into that habit, either because there was a health condition in the house, or they started teaching them or training them and making that a fun thing to do from the start. Lastly, on the academic part of it, someone asked the question about what is a blended model or what is a blended plan, and I made myself a note here to mention on that. The blended model, what we're talking about there is we would have a child on campus for the core curricular part of the day, their English language arts section, their reading section, their math, and then around their lunchtime or their break time, the parent could pick them up, and the parent would be expected, or the child would be expected, to work on social studies or science, or extending the learning. We do a morning reading program, certainly with our elementary children, but we come back and do one in the afternoon as well. So for some children, a blended model might work, but it will only work if the family can be responsible to pick up the child on time and support the child when they're doing their work from home. So if you're interested in that the blended model, I would ask that you talk directly to your principal and have those discussions about how that might work, and they can weigh the pros and cons on that. I talked about after school. Margaret, do you have anything at this point to add to that after school thought process, or kind of the challenges we've been faced with there? Trevor, you'll have to hit unmute for her as well, please.
Yes, waiting for hers to fully unmute.
There we go.
Yes, we are working diligently. Glenda and I worked with the State Department today, looking at what other schools are doing. And I wanted to make a comment, Mr. Kennedy, to emphasize we've used a couple of new words in this conversation. Encore is anything that it's an extra class. It is not the core curriculum. So we've used specials and we've used electives before, but that word is now encore. The other word that's kind of new to our conversations are a cohort group. So if your child comes in and they're in Miss Maker's group, then they will be in Miss Maker's group all day and stay with only those students. That limits the contact that your child brings home to you, to other families, because you got to remember, it's not just the people that are at school that you're being exposed to their germs. It's everyone that your child is in contact with, that you're in contact with, and that every person at the school. So that's one reason we're trying to maintain the cohort, which makes after school so difficult, because a lot of people want to go on home or they need to go work on their lessons. So it is a challenge. We're working on it. We're working with other schools to see what they're doing. And if I may, Mr. Kennedy, I'd like to let people know that the food for our students who are not on campus is not like we did in the summer. They must be enrolled at Grandview School to participate in our food program now.
That is a very good point, and that's not just us being mean guys. Ms. Carlisle and I were on the call with the state superintendent today, and they went over some guidelines and some waivers they've asked from the USDA, and at the federal level, that is a federal law for this particular program that they must be enrolled in our school. So with that, thank you for bringing that up, Margaret, and thank you for reemphasizing. Cohort means homeroom class, for lack of a better term. We keep kids in those cohorts, and encore is like we've called specials or electives, or in some cases extracurriculars before. I know that I saw Mike Bilby on here. I know Mike's just got to be really, really wishing he was a superintendent again. And believe me, Mike, I'm really, really, really wishing you were a superintendent again too, and that I was not. But I was tickled to death. Someone put, "You guys rock. Thank you for all the wonderful things you're doing," or something of that nature. If whoever did that would put that in the chat, I want to give you kudos or buy you lunch or something. I know when I used to teach, I would ask kids how old they would ask how old I was, and I would have them guess. And those that guessed I was 5 or 10 years younger than I really was were certain to get an A for the day. So somebody got an A for the day by saying that we rocked, and it made me feel good, because there hasn't been very much in the last few months that have made me feel good. Let me go over the questions I've got, and then they've got some on the screen, and some of you others can pop some up on the screen. I tell you what, before they start popping up on the screen, let me address those. Jennifer asked the percentage of students at this time enrolled in the traditional route. And I would say, and this is a wild guess, Jennifer, I would say we're probably still at 90%. Now, what we did not have our enrollment set up effectively to check that when the enrollment process started. So if you are on this call tonight and you have not specified either way, face-to-face, or you would like to do virtual, if you will contact the school and let us know so that they can put that on there. That's one thing. Now, let me tell you what we're seeing statewide. I've seen the numbers for virtual. I was on a superintendent conference call this morning, and I've seen the number for virtual as low as 8% in a district, and I've seen it as high as 40% in a district. And I started looking at the districts and watching the trends, and by and large, those districts that had really high numbers, really high percentages for virtual, were large districts, and they were large districts in affluent areas. They were districts that had parents that, maybe the primary breadwinner was a white collar and the other parent was a stay-at-home parent that could support that. Or the other thing that they're doing, one of the things that came up is they're calling them COVID pods, and it's these families that are willing to stay home and bring 4 or 5 kids in and rotate and do virtual learning models from home. So for us, it's important for us to track and find those numbers out within the next week or so. But I would say right now, and this is a wild guess, this is just the numbers I'm seeing, but it would probably be about 10%. And then the other part of it is, many of you were waiting on this conference call or this Zoom meeting, or many of you were waiting on that update to explain how the virtual model worked. Another thing we're going to note is Amy Carey asked a question about how distance learning will affect those with IEPs. Obviously, if a student has an IEP and they've got a fragile, they're fragile or have a healthcare condition, that makes us very concerned. We want every student to stay safe. So we need to consult with the special education staff and consult with the parents on what those models might be. But for those that are distance learning or those that are doing it virtually, we will work with you. And as long as we're doing face-to-face, we are trying to put together a plan where you can be visited on a regular basis, and some of those learning materials for those kids that are staying at home, you'll have that opportunity to work with that teacher and to get some assistance there. In some instances, it may be on the phone, and you may want it to be on the phone or on a Zoom meeting like this, because you may not want a teacher coming from school and coming to you and even seeing your child on the porch because of the health issue. So we will work on those that have those IEP cases. Just please reach out to the special ed staff. When and how will the distance learning start? We will start with that right away, but the pushing back for 2 weeks, as I said in the overview or in the COVID plan or the return to learn plan itself, part of the issue for us, we're like every other school. We've ordered technology and we are waiting on technology. Trevor has us in pretty good shape with Chromebooks. We've kind of moved to that one-to-one model from about 3rd grade and up anyway, but we have ordered 100 replacements or 100 newer models, ordered in April, promised July 13th. And as of now, they're saying September or October. So that's the update on the new Chromebooks. And currently we are waiting on hotspots. We've ordered 100 hotspots. So those that already have a technology device at home or have internet connection, and those that, as we said, we'll start checking those Chromebooks out very early, so that distance learning model will in fact start very early. Let me go down my list now and cover some of these points, and you guys can keep up with the comments on the chat, or if you want to raise your hand and ask a particular question, you can do that. You guys have done a great job putting up with me, and I've talked as fast as my Southeastern Oklahoma accent will let me. But as again, I stress partnerships. They ask about the COVID team roles on campus. We've talked about that. We got a question about the contract for parents at school. Again, that is not for testing at school. That is only for saying you're going to partner with us and you're going to do what it takes to keep these kids safe and to keep our teachers safe. That's one thing I didn't mention. We have high expectations for our teachers, and the Oklahoma Health Department just drove it into my head that we will be very, very strict with our teachers about them screening every day. And their screening, obviously, they're going to say, well, do I feel good? Did I go to a hotspot city or a hotspot state over the weekend? Those are second nature. But what we have to kind of be careful about are those situations where a teacher comes to school and then has a fever. So we will use the electronic device, and we'll have the login sheets, and those people will take their temp each day, and because we want to keep our teachers healthy too. And to add to that, we have looked at many different strategies on what we could do to keep things safe. So with that being the case, we've got our maintenance team developed a model for us to use as table dividers, and it's very simple. You guys have seen it, or one of you guys showed it to us even, and it's made out of PVC, and Coach Thomas has ordered some specialty, it's thin, but it's clear sheet material that will go on those PVC frames, and those frames can be adjusted with the angle, and or they'll stand alone to divide that space. So even if students are sitting at a table, they can work together. But with their masks and those dividers, we think there's a degree of safety there that we couldn't otherwise have. Somebody asked about blended learning. We addressed that point. They asked about the contact tracing and what is considered close contact. We addressed that point. Somebody asked about the supply list. The supply list has been available online since last week. You can click there and download the supply list for your age child. Some of you are asking about when they will know what teacher they have. With our new enrollment system, we've had to purge some of those old records and the names of some of our classes, just not to get into too much complication, but to pay a teacher and to get a teacher aligned to a particular class, we've got to use certain words and certain codes that the State Department of Education uses. And a few years ago, they changed a bunch of those without accuracy anyway. So we are changing and correcting those at this time and doing the best we can to get that out next week. Now, I can't guarantee that, but that's our intent. We've got I didn't say it, but I said it in the plan. We've got the parent-teacher conferences will be virtual. We will have a virtual back to school, and we will notify you when that virtual back to school is available. And you can go to the website and click on the link and watch the video about, you can watch an introductory video from me or one of the other administrators. They'll only be 3 or 4 minutes long at most. And you can watch a video on how to pull into campus and what we will do those first days as far as kids getting out of the car and going to or finding their teacher or going to the cafeteria and grabbing breakfast, whatever the case may be. And then there'll be video clips from each building that the teachers will introduce themselves, and they'll walk you down and show you where their room is and that kind of stuff, as if you were following them down the hall. And we think that'll be nice because it'll be a lot quicker than you guys being on campus. And also you can pick and choose which of those you like. I wish we could have a teacher introduce themselves. I'm Miss Little Deer, and here's my students, and hold that list of students up. And then you guys would know. But again, because of the privacy issues and some of the things that we have to be concerned with, we can't do that. So we'll have those student lists and class assignments done just as soon as we can. But the other part of it is we've got to do some load balancing. That's why it's important for you guys to let us know on campus or virtual, because if we've got 60 kids in our 8th grade class and 21 of those are going to be virtual, then we're going to have 13, 13, and 13. And if we go in and develop these class lists right now, and we balance them out, and we think we've got 17 in each class, and all of a sudden we've got one class that loses a bunch of kids to virtual, that will impact our calculations, certainly. Let's see. Oh, a good point. The campus will open at 7:30 because we don't want kids mingling on campus. We want them in their classroom and those types of things. Again, parents, drop your kids off and let us take them and let us get them to their classroom and keep them safe and isolated with just their colleagues at that time. So 7:30, the new school day starts at 8:05 and ends at 3:30. And because it is a little bit longer day, and because we adjusted some scheduling around, we're still out in mid-May. We're not too late with that newly adjusted calendar. Let me see. Somebody had a question and they said, I know it's a bit trivial, but how are the children going to get their photographs for yearbooks or things like that? Hey, that's a great question. The important thing about that question is for you guys to know that we are not going to exclude those kids that are in a virtual environment. We're going to do what we need to do to come up with a program and come up with schedules that can get them on campus for things like school photographs, or as the year winds down, heaven forbid, if we're still in this situation where we can give awards or recognize those kids that win Student of the Month and things like that. Let's see, somebody asked about virtual students getting tutoring. I addressed that one. Okay, I think I've addressed everything you guys asked in advance. Let me go back up and make sure that we're addressing these other points. Somebody asked about downloading any apps other than Zoom. Let us talk about that, and we'll include a list of anything you guys may want to do on your end with your technology. We'll let you know, and if there's a login, or if we've purchased that software, in some instances they give us a take-home opportunity, and if there's any way we need to let you know how to download that and use our license for that, we'll do that as well. Chris, thank you for that question. That's a good one. Larry noticed that the virtual learning platform, we had professional development back in July on a couple of things, and one of them was getting our faculty up to using Google Classroom, and most of them already had, so the transition will be easy. And we did a faculty survey back toward the end of July, and the thing that made my heart a little bit easier was our people, by and large, were comfortable to very comfortable if we have to deliver lessons online. Okay, how will teachers, kids after school walk up like last year, have to get them after we let our kids out? I'm not exactly sure I understand that question, but if we're talking about parent pickup, we're working on the strategies for that. Mr. Cox is investigating some software that you guys download on your phone that lets you know when we're on campus. And the expectation is that I don't know if we're going to be able to use it. I don't know if it's appropriate for us, but we are still going to keep those kids in those cohorts until we can get them out to the parents, and we've got to strategize on how we do that. Some schools, there was a school that started over in Adair County last week, and we've allowed you guys to make one pickup point. If you've got an early childhood, a fourth grader and an eighth grader, you pull through the early childhood, you picked up all three of them. We will try to accommodate and do something like that to keep you from having to be back in the traffic pattern 3 times. But school over in Adair County, if they've got 3 kids in 3 different grades, they go to 3 different pickup points. And our pickup issues are so problematic that we're going to try not to do that. Sonia asked the question, will face shields be allowed? Face shields are allowed. If you looked at CDC stuff, the face shield and the mask is considered just very, very, very effective at controlling contaminants coming in or contaminants going out. So in some instances, the teachers will utilize face shields if they're at the front of the room and they need to visit with the kids. Here's what we found with face shields, though. I don't know how many of you have tried them. They're just like my face mask with glasses. If I don't have it fitting well, they cause fogging. And we had a professional development specialist in last week, and you couldn't see her in her face shield because of the fogging. It may also have been that the fact that our faculty had the room at about 63 degrees and she came in from outside. But yeah, we had fogging on the face shield that particular day. Quarantine requirements. Jennifer asked, are we following the guidelines from the CDC? Yes, by and large from the CDC, Jennifer, and as you know, we're having trouble keeping up with that. Literally 15 minutes before the board approved the plan the other night, I had to go in and make an edit because the CDC plan changed from 14-day quarantine to a 10-day quarantine at a particular level. Here's what I'll say about quarantine and isolation. My boss is a RN, and it's confusing to her because there are a lot of different requirements and a lot of different discussion points. So with that being the case, until we get good at this, and to be honest, I hope we don't get good at it. That means we're doing a good job and we're not having people sick. We're gonna reach out to the Cherokee County Health Department and ask them what the recommendation is and who we need to contact trace. I've got just a couple more questions here. Let's see. Sean Cox, Principal Sean Cox makes a point for you guys. If you check that parent portal, and even if we haven't announced it yet, and we've got your child assigned to a class, your parent portal will show where your child is, and you'll have an idea of the schedule and some of those things. So thank you for reminding me of that, Sean. Brian asked a really good question here, and I can't answer this one. Brian Wagner asked, for those children that are fully virtual, do they need to purchase that full supply list? I would ask the principals to get with their teachers and make a decision on that. And if we need to do an amended list for virtual kids, comment on that. I would bet, Brian, that certainly in your house, you probably have all the things that Isaac would need. But I'll let Larry and Sean answer that after they talk to their teachers. Donations. Jennifer Russell asked a very kind question. What, if any, donations do we need? Anyone that's got a timeshare in Maui or a home in Colorado that they want to give up for a week or so, any of those things would be very nice. Actually, we think we've spent our money pretty well, and Doug has done a good job going after PPE supplies and signage and some of those things. I'm not sure if or when the governor's promise will come to fruition about 2 masks and for every child and the gloves and all of those things. I saw a news story today that that's going to be later than promised. And those come through our emergency management group, and then we have to go down and pick those up. So by and large, we're in pretty good shape on that, and we're in pretty good shape on some of the sanitizing items and some of those kind of things that we need.
There's one thing, Mr. Kennedy, if you don't, there's one thing I thought of was water bottles. We're going to ask kids to bring water bottles so that we don't have to use the water fountains. But there may be some kids that we'd like to have a few extra water bottles for those kids that maybe forgot theirs or for whatever reason don't have one. So a few extra water bottles would be nice.
That is absolutely accurate and great idea. Doug has ordered Sonia Davidson with Cherokee Nation has been great to us and worked with us, and we have put in water bottle fill stations around campus per a grant that she's helped us with. However, we're still short. We still want to add more. Doug has ordered more, and I think we'll have total of 12 around campus. So the kids shouldn't have to go very far to fill those water bottles. So yes, water bottles that that can be written on or scratched on where they can be identified, that would be appreciated. Let's see. The question about will students have their own desk or be sitting at the same tables? Unfortunately, our school furniture is an absolute mishmash of things. We probably still have some desks on campus that when Mike Bilby was teaching here were on this campus, but we have phased many out, and we kind of go through cycles. For some years, teachers like collaborative work and they want tables. Some years they want to move back to desk and the college style desk, and then it's not big enough because they can't put their laptop on it. So the short answer is it'll be a little bit of everything. And unfortunately, at the elementary level, we do a lot of work at tables. We call those work centers, and especially with our reading program and the teacher being able to sit with a small group of students at one time while they read to that teacher is important. So it will be a combination of those things. And in the Early Childhood Center, I might defer that to Ms. Farrar if she wants to comment, but I think that's primarily tables. And that was our impetus for developing those barriers or those dividers that we can put on a table to keep the kids from breathing on each other in those closer quarters like that. Interaction with kids via virtual, yes. The student, Sonia, on that one, that's a good question. Sonia asked about interaction with kids with other students that are virtual. The teacher may assign group work or teamwork or small group projects with some of those virtual students, but obviously with the technology that all of our students will have, at least from grades 3 through 8, they will have that opportunity to interact with each other. And you know how they are with the technology and social media. That's the thing we'll have to watch, that they're not bullying each other or doing something silly that gets them in hot water. It was funny last year because I made a smart comment to one of the principals. I said, well, at least with this COVID stuff, we're not having to deal with any discipline issues. Yeah, we are. So we had some people going back and forth virtually, and we had to intervene and make a discipline statement in regard to that. But that's a good question. Thank you. Any other questions? And Larry, Sean, Margaret, Jenny?
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
A short comment on that particular question about interaction with other students. We had some really good feedback on kind of the office hour times when we would, the teachers would interact at those specific times. It gave us a great opportunity to let the kids talk a little bit, check on each other, see each other in a controlled environment. And I kind of see that being the opportunities that were easiest to do across those that have the computers to do that with. So it was a very good, we had good response with the teachers that did that and tried it out. Of course, that was a learning curve right off the bat in May, but they found good success for that. So I think there'll be opportunities for the kids to specific time periods and occasions where they can get together and kind of chat with a teacher in the background during that, say, a Zoom session or something like that. And then I just wanted to also comment on the tables. We do have plenty of dividers, or you might call them cough screens, things like that, to go for all of our tables where we have tables only. And then we have also probably we'll be able to accommodate very well distancing those kids amongst those tables also. So I feel pretty confident with the combination of the mask and the screens that we're going to be using that we can provide pretty good safety for them that way.
I made a comment or two there on donations. Some of you have texted me on a few things, and so I put that in the comment box. Kleenex, Clorox wipes, and some of those paper masks. Trevor, how many do we have on this call? I had a text from someone that had tried to get on the call and wasn't able to access it, so I'm glad we're recording.
Yes, we have 90 with us right now. I think that what we ran into was that there used to be a education account to where education accounts where at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, they allowed for maximum participants to be more than 100.
Trevor, you're time out. You sound like an alien with a Peter Frampton guitar mouthpiece in right now. You want to try a different mic? Again?
Still messed up?
Still messing up.
Okay.
I think when we first started, we were at 100, and now we're at about 90 from what I can see.
Okay, thank you. Okay, yeah, this said it was set at 100 people. and that's why we timed out. I kind of regret now the faculty and staff having to listen to this again because of limiting some of those people that tried to get on, but it is recorded, and so they will have the opportunity to pick up on that. Any other questions? We've been at about an hour and 12 minutes. Some of you have sent me a text. One of the things we'll have to look at is our pre-K and kindergarten. If anything comes up there or anything goofy happens where we have to go to a half-day model, kindergarten does not require full day. That could be an option. That comment I mentioned earlier about some schools doing an A-B option, the thing I heard about the A-B option was actually every child would only go 2 days a week. They would go like Monday, Tuesday, and then a deep cleaning of Monday, and then again on Thursday. A different group would go Tuesday and Friday, so the deep cleaning of the building could occur on Wednesday. And let me tell you, if we have to go to that, we will do our best. We're just going to work it out where if you are a family that has 3 children, your 3 children, regardless of what grade they're in, will be here on the same day. We're not going to make it where it's convoluted and you have to get kids here on different days. So if we have to get to that point, we would certainly do that.
Mr. Kennedy, I wanted to remind you, we did have in the schedule virtual days, and those are opportunities for us to use also for contacting those that aren't normally on campus.
Okay, very good. Thank you for mentioning that. You guys, if you will share the word, spread the word about what you have learned. If you have any other questions, please check with the principal, a special ed director, or with me, or the central office staff, and we will try to get them answered as expeditiously as possible. Check the website frequently, and I wish this were like a traditional class. I would have asked a question early on that would have put many of you on the spot to see how many had actually read the review plan and how many had read, or the return to learn plan, and how many had read the overview. But based on your questions, I think many of you did. I think you guys did a great job coming into this prepared, and I appreciate you for that. And when people ask you those questions, answer them as accurately and as best you can, and then tell them, go to the website. It's pretty well laid out there. One very important point, be sure and look at it, that Ms. Carlisle made, and correct phone number with our central office staff so they can get it on the enrollment form and work with you guys to make sure you get those calls. If you don't get a call, it's because for some reason we don't have you in the system, or for some reason we have had it's a call that is going to a select group of people. Sometimes that's the issue. Okay, anything else?
Yeah, Mr. Kennedy, just a kind of a public announcement, make sure that if you haven't enrolled yet, that whether you're going virtual or you're going to do face-to-face, we need you to still enroll the same. It doesn't matter what you're choosing. Check the website for the materials or the documents that you need before you get online to enroll. If you need help with that, you can call the office. Things are calming down in the office. They're able to handle more calls, and they're better at it because we've got more practice now and worked through some glitches. So please call them. Sometimes they can answer that question on the phone and walk you through something at your house. And then if not, definitely make an appointment, and we'll get an appointment and have you come into the school and set you down on a computer, and we will walk you through that. So we want you guys to get that enrolled, and we realize that it's been a struggle, and it's been a little bit of a challenge, but we're going to get through this and get it done, and just let's make sure we get enrolled.
Yeah, and to Mr. Cox's point, just as a point of reference, try it, really try it at home and try it on a computer or a tablet. Don't try it on your phone. That's a little bit difficult. And try to make that work. And we say that because we want the feedback. This system that we're using, we're one of the first, not one of the first, but there are only a handful of schools in the state that have started to use that, this particular model. And we need to be able to give feedback to the software developing company so we can kind of talk to them about what they need to do to make it better. So that's why we need your feedback on that. The last thing I want to mention to you guys is you have no idea what and some people are making comments right here that's really nice and heartfelt. You have no idea what a great staff you've got here at this school. I work at the best place. I drive 50 miles one way every day because of the people I get to work with or that I get to work for. And you know, your kids are just the icing on the cake. These people are wonderful. We've had a nationally renowned educator, Ron Clark, from the Ron Clark Academy. If you've not heard of him, look him up, watch videos on him. This dude is amazing. Oprah Winfrey in 2000 named him one of the most influential men in America. And so all that said, you ought to watch some of the stuff Ron Clark's done. Well, Ron Clark did a virtual workshop for us a week ago that was a surprise to our teachers. And he rocked it and they loved it. 4 or 5 of our teachers have been down to Atlanta to visit his school, and we're going to adopt some of those principles in the school climate transformation grant that we're working on. And we did a workshop with one of his co-founder yesterday. She was on and she did a workshop, and there were 74 of our staff participated. And folks, we've only got 50 certified teachers, and we had 74 people on that Zoom meeting. And tomorrow we have another gentleman that's going to show us one of their things. And I bet our turnout's just as impressive. So the kind words you're saying are accurate. You guys, you work with some, your teachers and the people you see that you're put your child's trust in every day are amazing people, and we're lucky to have them. Thank you guys, and we'll see you next time.